Visit philo.tv to get started. That's philo.tv.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Meese.
Crash-free, delay-free on the Valley freeways, but a lane restriction has caused some delays on Bangalore Highway is in the South Jordan area, especially on the southbound side from 90th to 9800 South. At the 9800 South Shields Lane intersection, you will see a left lane blocked to traffic. Cypress checking account members enjoy discounted rates on auto and RV loans, free access to their credit scores and reports, and a suite of other products and perks. Learn more at cypresscu.com. Cypress Credit Union, your future is our future. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, mostly sunny and dry starting this weekend going into next week, and we'll see highs rising into the upper 40s. Right now, partly cloudy with a 43 degrees at this moment, looking toward a high around 44 today. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com, for Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
As we close out the week on a Friday, of course, we've been watching closely all week long the presidential contest, particularly on the Republican side, between former President Trump and the sole standing challenger left, Nikki Haley, up in New Hampshire. And, of course, now primary season shifts on to South Carolina, about 5 weeks away. So a long time to go, especially in political terms. That's several lifetimes away. But we want to get past just the headlines, the back and forth, the threats, the points, the counterpoints, the talking points ad nauseum. We want to take a look at why so many are calling for this to all be over. It's as if they were trying to call a baseball game over after one out in the first inning. Should we expect something different? Let's begin.
Think you know the news of the day? Think again with Boyd Matheson on KSL News Radio.
Well, it is always a good day on Inside Sources when we get to tap into the ultimate inside source, friend of the show, Johanna Maska. Of course, she's the CEO of the Global Situation Room, contributor at News Nation, one of the smartest people we have on the planet when it comes to all things politics, and someone who understands the process when it comes to getting the nominee to be president of the United States, of course, working on the Obama campaign. And Johanna, welcome back to the show.
Oh, Boyd, it is always a pleasure to be with you. I am calling in from a public school. I love being out in the field in public school. So if you hear any noise in the background, that's where I am.
the perfect place for the conversations, many of which are junior high-ish, as it has been on the campaign trail. It is sharpening up a little bit, and it's been so interesting to me. And we've been talking about this, and I know you've been talking about this everywhere you've been, including News Nation, saying, why are we racing to have this all done in January? The score is, on the Republican side anyway, is 32-17 out of 1,215 that you have to get to. Kind of walk us through. You were part of a campaign where there was supposed to be a coronation with Hillary Clinton to be the nominee, and your campaign with the then Senator Barack Obama had other plans.
Yeah, well, and look, there's more than 160 million registered voters in America. 3 million of them have voted so far. So that's all that's actually voted. And of those voters, you know, this media narrative that there's this overwhelming enthusiasm for President Trump, it's about 8% of those registered voters of the 3 million people who have actually voted for Donald Trump. If you add, you know, I know Iowa was lower because of the cold weather and everything. New Hampshire was higher, but it still is only 200,000+ people who actually came out for President Trump. So here there's this narrative that Nikki Haley needs to drop out now. I would disagree with that. And I would actually go farther to say, you know, it's really amazing to me that it's only women from the Trump administration, who are the ones left standing telling the truth about President Trump being unfit to serve. And look, I mean, I worked against Hillary Clinton when I was with President Obama, and there were all sorts of concerns about the Clinton orbit, not least of which, you know, we used to talk about how President Clinton was flying around on Jeffrey Epstein's plane, and Hillary Clinton, you know, was going to be this presumptive nominee. Now, having worked with her in the administration, I think she was very different than her husband. But, you know, I think that we had to continue the fight. The fight, Boyd, is going to be different this side around because the Republicans do it differently than the Democrats do. So we had a proportional ballot the whole time. So we were proportional in the state of California. For example, Hillary Clinton got more than 50% of the vote, but we split the delegates. It's different on the Republican side. You know, Californians will start voting in a couple weeks, and if they vote for President Trump by more than 50% majority, actually 100% of those delegates, even the people who went to vote for Nikki Haley because they're Republicans who refused to vote for Donald Trump in the general election, they will still have all of those delegates go to President Trump. So, you know, I can understand why the media is saying it's going to be an uphill battle for Nikki Haley. But it's still a battle.
Yeah, and the battle is what it's supposed to be all about. And having that debate, I have always maintained that the fact that it took all the way until, I think it was June the 6th, when the Obama campaign finally got over the top in terms of the number of delegates needed, I think that made him a better general election candidate, and I think it made him a better president because he had to continue those conversations with the American people on the ground.
That, and it strengthened our organizing capacity for the general election because we actually had boots on the ground organizers in all of those states compiling data, verifying information, making sure that we knew where our voters were so that for the general election, we won states we never could have imagined winning. We won the state of Indiana. We had to compete in Idaho. You know, I remember doing a Obama rally in Idaho, and we ended up getting more than 60% of the vote. But that meant that we figured out where the Democrats were who were enthusiastic about you know, President Obama.
Yeah.
So I resent this notion. And look, I mean, I think as a Democrat, you know, we've got the Democrats are already out there trying to do some of this stuff. That's why you see Jen O'Malley Dillon going into the campaign. You see the campaign really beefing up its key state strategy and its delegates to make sure that they've got all the pieces in place so that when it comes to a general election, they can find their voters and they can get them to the polls. That's what you see on the Republican side. If they're smart about it, they're actually using this to, you know, be competitive in the general election. And the Democrats need to pay attention to that, and that's why you see that they are.
Yeah, and so fascinating. And we've been talking about the fact that you've kind of got the a lot of the elite folks on both sides of the aisle wanting both of these to just be a coronation and be done so that they can conserve resources, move on to the general election, keep it simple. We've seen the targeting in terms of whether it's Robert F. Kennedy's getting access to the ballot, whether it's groups like No Labels, including both sides see them as threats to undermine. You've got one side saying, well, if that happens, that ensures Joe Biden wins the presidency. The other side saying, no, if they're in the race, that ensures Trump wins another term. Give us a sense in terms of how do we cut through all of that chatter and clamor so that we can keep the focus on what the focus should actually be on?
Well, the options for the American people, whether they're just Democrats or Republicans, you know, you do see whether, like, the Republicans even saying they want a different option other than Donald Trump. So, you know, No Labels is going to try to get ballot access. And they've said over and over and over they don't want to run a candidate if they believe it will end up with a President Trump in office. I think they've got to look at the numbers and look at any third-party candidate would actually make it easier for a President Trump victory. This whole notion that, Robert Kennedy, RFK Jr. would end up taking from Trump is not necessarily true.
Right.
The campaigns don't, certainly the Democrats don't want third-party challengers because they don't then know their math. Whether it's fair, though, to say that there shouldn't be able to be those third-party candidates, I actually think there's part of me that wants to see more than two parties in America.
Yay. Radical stuff.
I know, it's radical. It's like radical. It's like that we don't want gerrymandering, that we do want term limits, that we want more rights for the American people. I want to see more options. And so, it's an interesting precedent because it probably will be unlikely, we'll see what happens with the general election, whether it changes dramatically the outcomes of this general election when you've got two men that people know very well for a very long time. It may not. But does it open up a lane for more independence and more people thinking that way about not necessarily being affiliated with one party or the other? That could be an interesting outcome.
It would be a good exercise in democracy, I think, would be what we would call that.
Yeah. Well, and if we could get more of these people to vote, of the 160 plus million people who are registered, I mean, it's telling that there's not a ton of people, and I know it's like record turnout or whatever, but in New Hampshire, it's not a ton of people who actually vote in these primary elections. Yeah. And if people want to have good options for the general election, they've got to pay attention to the primary election. And there are always ways that you can register as one party or another and get the better candidate to the general election, whether it's a local race or a, federal race. Those are the ones to pay attention to.
Yeah, no question about it. I hope everyone listening at the middle school in California today got the message. We're going to blast the memo everywhere. It's radical stuff coming from Johanna Maska, and we love it because it's good for the constitutional republic and a good day for the republic. Johanna, as always, thanks so much for joining us today.
It was such a pleasure, Boyd. Talk to you very soon.
So many things to think again about as it relates to how these all play out. In fact, we're going to stay with the conversation. When we come back, we're going to dig in a little bit to this presumptive nominee conversation, what that should look like, and what should play out over the next 6 weeks as we do our regular weekly check-in, our Inside Sources, Inside Look at presidential politics. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Think again on Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson. The Cougars tear into their first Big 12 conference games.
Spencer finds him for the hammer.
Saturday at 11, it's BYU, Texas. BYU, Texas. Pre-game coverage, Saturday at 11 on Utah's legacy home for the Big 12 and the BYU Cougars. KSL News Radio.
Well, if you're looking for someone who can really help you with quality financial services, you don't need to look any further than Hercules Credit Union. They've been doing this since 1946, all community-driven, community-focused, all about growing stronger together. And right now, they're going to show you how they do that. And the way they do that is by treating you with extraordinary care. In fact, right now, all you have to do is go in and open a new checking account, and Hercules will upgrade you to Premier Checking status for free. For free. Easy as that. Just open a new checking account, and Hercules will upgrade you to all the benefits of having Premier Checking status, identity theft protection, travel benefits, cellular care coverage, and much, much more. With our friends at Hercules Credit Union, you can find their locations. They're all over the place. Taylorsville, Harriman, Riverton, Salt Lake City. Or as always, with our friends at Hercules Credit Union, you just can find them online anytime at HerculesCU.com. That's HerculesCU.com.
We all make resolutions this time of year, and let's face it, most of them won't stick. But here's one that's not only easy to keep, but will help you feel healthier all year long. Navage. Navage provides quick, drug-free nasal relief by washing saline in one nostril, around the back of the nose, and out of the other nostril. This time of year, when everyone is sick, Navage helps by sucking out germs, bacteria, and viruses trapped in our noses that cause us to feel miserable. And come allergy season, it does the same with dust, pollen, and other allergens. And unlike medications that can take time to help, if they're effective at all, Navage helps treat congestion symptoms in seconds flat, without drugs. This New Year's, resolve to use drug-free Navage to help you breathe easier, sleep better, and feel healthier all year long. Ask for Navage at Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Target, or find us online at Navage.com. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E. Clean nose, healthy life.
I'm Scott, the owner of Solid Fire Pits. When I began welding my custom-made fire pits for friends and family, I shared them on TikTok because I was just so proud of them. Check it out. That's beautiful. I posted every new fire pit design, and more people kept ordering, from 26 states and counting. Then on my birthday, I had my best sales ever. Now how can the universe beat that?
Solid Fire Pits is just one of the 5 million U.S. businesses that rely on TikTok every day. TikTok sparks business.
Valentine's Day is here. This year, give the ultimate gift. Name a star after your sweetheart. This is Rocky Moselle with International Star Registry. For 45 years, we've named millions of stars for celebrities, dignitaries, and individuals worldwide. For $59 and a call to 800-282-3333 or visit starregistry.com, you can give the most memorable gift. The star you name will be recorded in book form in the U.S. Copyright Office. Visit starregistry.com or call 800-282-3333.
It's the Boat Show, February 1st through the 4th at Mountain America Expo.
Save $2 at utahboatshow.com.
The Boat Show, fun for the whole family.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, both houses of the Utah legislature have passed the two most controversial bills of this session, eliminating DEI programs in colleges and restricting who can use restrooms and locker rooms. Second, authorities are responding to reports of a plane landing on top of the dam at Pineview Reservoir. Third, Alabama says it will help other states try a new method of executing prisoners that it used for the first time last night. Right now, 43 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Inside Sources, an inside look at 2024 presidential politics.
We are staying with the question of the presidential politics as we round out the week. It's been a big week for presidential politics, and very interesting as things continue on. We've had exactly two states, Iowa and New Hampshire, have weighed in. A long way to go. South Carolina is the next major piece up for the Republicans, and then on to March the 5th and Super Tuesday, where Utah will participate as well. And one of the fascinating things, if you missed our previous segment, our conversation with Johanna Maska, who was part of the Obama ground game back in 2008 in that first run for the White House. So she knows her way around the nominating process. And I thought it was so funny. She mentioned the fact that both parties love to do these coronation things. Like they're all for democracy and the voice of the people. But if we can just have a presumptive nominee, that's okay. They're all against things like gerrymandering, unless, of course, it's helpful to them. And then it's just, being responsible. So very interesting this week after former President Trump was the winner in New Hampshire. Again, just a reminder of the scoreboard, 32-17 is the current score. You have to get to 1,215 to be declared the winner. So we're just barely into the race, but very interesting. Republican National Committee Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel made an appearance, and they had drafted up, the RNC, a proposal that basically said it's over, making the former president the presumptive nominee and all of the resources of the national party that go with being the presumptive nominee, saying we just don't have time to let the process play out. Think about that for a second. We don't have time to let the process play out. We hear this sometimes from senators and Congress people. We just don't have time. So rather than doing the democratic process, we're just going to short circuit it because we know best. So here's how she described it and justified what they were trying to do by just ending the contest after just two contests.
Looking at the math and the path going forward, and I don't see it for Nikki Haley. I think she's run a great campaign. But I do think there is a message that's coming out from the voters, which is very clear. We need to unite around our eventual nominee, which is going to be Donald Trump, and we need to make sure we beat Joe Biden. It is 10 months away till the November election, and we can't wait any longer to put our foot on the gas.
Okay, stunning in my view. Again, I don't care where you fall politically. That's not what leadership looks like. That's not what leadership sounds like. That's just beating people over the head with the issue. Say, we don't have time. We have to hurry. How many times do we hear that in Congress? Oh, we don't have enough time to actually give people time to read the bill because we're in a hurry. We have to do this now. It's urgent. Now, since this was first reported out, and a lot of kerfuffle, to quote Hugo today, a lot of kerfuffles going on in terms of what that actually means for the democratic process that we're supposed to be following in presidential elections. So since that time, they have pulled back the proposal. The former president's campaign, the Trump campaign, has stepped away from it, saying, we respect, we're so grateful that they have chosen us and that we are going to be the winners, but we'll do it the old-fashioned way. We'll wait until the votes come in. That's a radical thing. Heaven forbid we wait for the votes to be counted. So they have stepped away from that. I think that's important. I think that's a good thing for Republicans to not have a coronation. Time is an interesting thing in politics. A week is a lifetime or more. And we have several lifetimes as these next nominating states and their primary votes come up. Earlier today, Nikki Haley did a sit-down interview following New Hampshire. And she was asked about some of the tactics that were being deployed, kind of bullying tactics, to just lock up the nomination and let the Republicans move on.
You can't bully your way through this process. He has 32 electoral delegates. I have 17. You have to have 1,215. There's a long way to go in this race, and we're prepared to do that. Then we don't need to talk about how you push through an election. We need to talk about what you're going to do for the American people.
Nikki Haley also gave a response to the former president threatening during his victory speech in New Hampshire that any big donors who donated to his opponent, Nikki Haley, would not be welcome. They'd be blackballed, boxed out of the inner circle should the president get back into the White House. That statement has raised, interestingly, a lot of money for Nikki Haley.
And you look at the fact that just yesterday, since Trump said he was going to ban people who supported me and not MAGA, we raised $1.6 million since he said that. I mean, you look at, we raised $1 million from the time of the speech to the next morning. We're going to keep raising money because people like what we have to say.
She was also asked if and when she plans to drop out of the race as the primary moves forward. A classic response.
I have been consistent from the beginning, Bill. You can ask me as many times as you want. I wanted to be strong in Iowa. We did that. I wanted to be even stronger in New Hampshire. We did that. I want to be even stronger in South Carolina. We're going to do that. And then we're going to go on to Super Tuesday. This is about continuing to build. Only 2 states have voted. We have 48 states left. You can't go and discount all of those voters who want to vote in this election. We're going to keep going as long as we keep growing. And I think that's what the American people want.
And that is the process. It is interesting to me. We talked about this on the show yesterday. I think the threats by the former president that anyone who donates to his opponent would be boxed out, would not have access to his inner circle in a new administration. And very interesting that the Haley campaign has used that as a way to actually raise $1.6 million in just about 48 hours. And so clearly there are some people out there who are saying, I'm not too worried about being on a President Trump 2.0 inner circle, so I'll go ahead and donate to his opponent this time around in Nikki Haley. And again, to me, all of that, let's not get distracted by the personalities or the parties. Let's get back to the principles. One, the targeting of political opponents, threatening people who support political opponents is not good for the Republic. It doesn't matter what party it is. Because it is a short hop, skip, and a jump from having those kinds of comments or that kind of blackball list from people who were just against you in a campaign to doing the same thing and then using the apparatus of government to target political opponents. We've seen that in our nation's history as well. It doesn't end well. And so we do have to be careful of that kind of language. It's not just divisive. It's not just explosive. It's not just bombastic. It's serious, and the words have meaning, and the meaning matters, and we have to make sure we're keeping an eye on that as well. So all of those things playing out as we march our way through 2024. We'll go ahead and step aside for some bottom-of-the-hour news. More Inside Sources coming up next. Stick around. We'll be right back.
It's 1:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top local story this hour. The Utah House has passed the bill that eliminates diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in Utah's public colleges. The Senate already passed it. Now it goes to Governor Spencer Cox, who's been a strong supporter of eliminating DEI questionnaires as a hiring requirement. The so-called bathroom bill has also passed both houses after a conference committee worked out changes to overcome objections in the House. The original version would have required people to use public restrooms that match the sex listed on their birth certificates. About half of all state lawmakers say they've received threats as they've tried to do their jobs. 38% say the amount and severity of the threats has only gotten worse since taking office. This is according to a study by the Brennan Center for Justice at New York University. The co-host of KSL at Night, Taylor Morgan, says these threats discourage a lot of people from running for office. It puts them and their families in jeopardy.
They're more likely to have their privacy invaded and compromised. They're more likely to have their family members potentially impacted in the same way.
Morgan says he grew up with a lawmaker in his family. He saw the threats and scares firsthand. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. A new deal to free more of the Israeli hostages held by Hamas could be in the works. National Security spokesperson John Kirby at the White House on Friday.
We continue to do everything we can to facilitate another hostage deal, just like we did back in November.
Previous agreements to free hostages also led to pauses in the fighting that has destroyed much of the buildings and infrastructure in Gaza. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average up on the day, 38 points or 36 points right now, while the NASDAQ is down on the day, 59 points. And we're moving into kind of a drier pattern with our weather, and it's going to warm right up. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time, 1:32.
You know what's great about KSL's traffic coverage? Trained traffic reporters and real listeners.
Trading information and making the commute safer and faster for everyone.
Every 10 minutes on the nines, we have you covered on KSL News Radio.
Tired of living in your parents' basement or renting? You want to buy a home, but you were told that your debt-to-income ratio is too high. This is why you need a highly qualified mortgage lender. Rick at Loans by Rick has 22 years of experience and has helped hundreds of clients lower their debt-to-income so they can make the most important purchase of their lives and buy a home. As with any profession, there are different levels of mortgage lenders, so why not work with the best lender? One that can cut through the mortgage jungle and get you into a home. As interest rates come down, home values will go up, creating multiple offers which will raise home values higher. Don't wait to buy a home. Buy now. You can always refinance later and save hundreds of dollars. Let Loans by Rick guide you with your mortgage process. Call 801-809-SAVE or click loansbyrick.com. That's loansbyrick.com.
Rick Kirschenbaum, NMLS 241179, and Vintage Lending, NMLS 287106 are equal housing lenders. Some restrictions apply.
The monster is coming, and it wants you and your family.
And that's great news, really, because it's time for the Bear Lake Monster Winterfest, January 26th through the 28th. Winterfest is all about an incredible celebration of winter and all the fun it brings. So start Friday with Monster Winter Sports and Trails Day, a free event featuring fat tire bikes, snowshoes, snowmobiles, and tubes for the kids. Also a taste of Bear Lake, with local restaurants dishing up their tasty specialties. Then Saturday, it's the Monster 5K Walk and Run, a Monster Cisco Disco Tournament, chili cook-off, even a cardboard boat regatta, followed by the famous Monster Plunge. Come on, Bear Lake awaits. Visit BearLakeMonsterWinterfest.com for pre-registration times and locations. That's BearLakeMonsterWinterfest.com. Presented by Bear Lake Visitors Bureau and Bear Lake Chamber.
Brought to you by Dominion Energy's ThermWise program, where they put their energy into helping you conserve it. Start saving energy and money today at thermwise.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Meese.
A good drive on I-15 and the rest of the Valley freeways. Delays southbound Bangerter between 90th and 9800 South Shields Lane due to an earlier left lane closed at the 9800 South intersection. Mr. Mac's buy one, get one sale. Buy one suit for $299. Get the second one for $100. Any style, any occasion, free alterations, and 9 locations. Mr. Mac, Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, mostly sunny and dry weather from this weekend going into next week. An inversion, though, is going to trap pollution in the valleys of the Wasatch Front. Our highs will rise into the upper 40s, and right now we're at 43 degrees, partly cloudy. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Mom and Dad used to argue about everything, especially about Dad's drinking. It drove me crazy. It got so bad, I couldn't do my homework. I couldn't concentrate. I absolutely refused to let any of my friends come to our house for any reason. I would have been humiliated if anyone found out how much my dad drank and how loud my mom screamed at him. My family went from totally crazy to quiet, calm, and even peaceful. The only thing that happened is my mom started going to Al-Anon family groups. Her relationship with my dad really changed. I asked Mom if she would take me to her Al-Anon meetings or to Alateen. I wanted to see if I could have a better relationship with my dad. I'm sure glad I did. If someone's drinking troubling you, you might be surprised at what you can learn in an Al-Anon or Alateen family group from people just like you. Call 1-888-4-ALANON or go to alanon.org.
At Social Security, we are always thinking of ways to save you time and make things easier. That's why we created My Social Security. Opening a My Social Security account gives you secure access to your personal record and interactive tools tailored for you. You can see if you are eligible to receive benefits, view spousal benefit estimates, and compare retirement benefit estimates at different ages or dates when you want to start receiving benefits. Already receiving benefits? Use your account to change your address, set up or change direct deposit, get a proof of income letter, and more. In most states, you can also request a replacement Social Security card. Save time. Go online. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security. Securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Inside Sources.
Inside Sources.
America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Well, Utah has taken on a mass of tech companies in the last decade between startups and legacy corporations. Silicon Slopes, of course, growing by leaps and bounds. And so looking at how do we continue to have the right workforce to meet those ever-growing needs is something that's been on a lot of folks' minds. And we want to look particularly at the Utah Tech workforce development. A really interesting combination between 47G, which is Utah's ecosystem of aerospace, defense, and cybersecurity companies. They have actually partnered with a friend of the show, the education technology company UScience, to launch an innovative workforce development program. And we wanted to dig into that just a little bit. Of course, our friend Aaron Starks is president and CEO of 47G. And right now we're joined by Edson Barton, who is UScience co-founder and CEO. And Edson, welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks, Boyd. I appreciate being here.
So give us a sense from the UScience part of this whole alliance together. What is it that is coming together? What's the real objective here?
Well, as you mentioned, there's a real disparity between the workforce that we have today and, more importantly, the workforce of tomorrow, and how we're preparing and guiding students into those potential careers of the future. And there's a tremendous gap. In the aerospace and defense industry, they are legitimately losing billions of dollars a year that could be coming into Utah, very specifically into Utah, because we don't have enough workforce to fill the jobs that they have available today.
And you've done such a great job at UScience to really help focus and help young people recognize those opportunities, young women in particular. Give us a little sense of that.
Yeah, one of the things that's so true in today's society, and it comes from a lot of different reasons, is that there is a stereotype and a biases that's built into young women in particular right now that's guiding them very specifically away from some of the most in-demand, high-paid careers out there. And in context of our partnership with 47G, and specifically with advanced manufacturing and computer technology, when you look at a young woman's interest, for example, in those types of fields, only 7% of Utah young ladies have any type of interest in going into advanced manufacturing. But when instead we look at who they are, their true aptitudes, all of a sudden that jumps up to 26% of young women have the capabilities and the inherent natural talents to go into that industry and be incredibly successful there.
Yeah, I think that's so important. You break down a lot of those stereotypes or those who just haven't really thought about it in those terms, in terms of what their aptitudes are, where their inclinations are, and what that could actually lead to, which can be not only a great career opportunity for them, but also help the state continue to thrive and grow.
That's right. It's so important for us to help young people of all ages, but all of us, to really focus on what is possible. And so many of us, it doesn't really matter if you come from a very well-to-do family or a economically disadvantaged family. We are kind of siloed into our thinking, and we have kind of blinders on. And what we do and what we're working towards is helping to break those blinders away from individuals, tell them what their real capabilities are, and point them in directions that actually lead to the economy instead of away from it. And we need to be doing that at a younger and younger age, because by the time that young women, for example, are in college, it's too late.
Right.
They've already kind of picked the direction that they're going. We need to start earlier.
So important. And if you're just joining us, we've been talking with Edson Barton, who is the co-founder and CEO of UScience, has been part of this great tag team with our friend Aaron Starks, who's the president and CEO of 47G. And, of course, 47G is Utah's ecosystem of aerospace, defense, and cybersecurity companies. And Aaron joins us on the line now. And, Aaron, as you look at this partnership with UScience, give us your sense from the 47G side in terms of why this is so crucial and the impact this can have on those important industries in the state.
Thank you. Well, we know one thing is clear, that over the next 2 decades, this economy will be shaped and influenced more by aerospace and defense than it will any other industry. These are higher paying, more sustainable wages, and there's been a lot of recruitment and attraction success into the state. And so with nearly 1,000 companies in the ecosystem, it's a major part of our workforce. It was a no-brainer for us to work with UScience. They've been doing great work for years and helping students understand their skills, their aptitudes earlier on in life, so they can make more informed decisions regarding their academic careers. And what we're seeing is that with an industry like aerospace and defense, a lot of students see the value, really love it. But what this does is allows us to put students on a path so they can easily land into the industry with a lot of industry partners who are willing to hire them.
That's so important. And give us a sense in terms of this pilot program. I know you've got about 100 member organizations, some 20 academic institutions in the 47G network. Give us a sense of what you hope to see coming out of this pilot program.
Well, one thing that we're very proud of is that universities and colleges throughout the state have prioritized aerospace and defense. And as you said, Boyd, it's space exploration, it's cybersecurity as well. We just saw Boeing announce that their lunar missions will now land in Utah. I mean, so much is happening. What the ultimate vision is that we are helping our industry partners, companies, hundreds of companies on and off the Wasatch Front, adopt UScience's technology so that their own employees can stay within the company and have great experiences as they further understand and develop these skills, as they understand more about their own aptitudes, but also that these companies can work with our university partners and both assessing, helping our universities understand what skills they need to hire, and through UScience's technology, put these skills on a path to to industry entrants.
So important. This is the Utah model at its finest. I love organizations coming together like this. Aaron Starks is president and CEO of 47G. Edson Barton is the co-founder and CEO of UScience. This is an important collaboration to make sure that we've got the right talent and skills, that we have better talent and skills, that Utah can continue to lead in so many important places and spaces, not just for our economy, but for the state's future as well. Gentlemen, thanks to both of you for joining us today.
Thank you.
All right. Again, really important conversation, really important alliance coming out between 47G and UScience to make sure that we are getting the right kind of talent, that we're producing a better workforce, building the ecosystems, fostering those relations, helping young people find that emerging talent and opportunity sooner, especially young women. You heard that from Barton in terms of the UScience and helping young women, making sure they're in that space. They can see themselves succeeding in that space. And so many things that will come out of this kind of alliance. I do think it's the Utah model at its finest. And again, thanks to Aaron Starks and Edson Barton for helping us shine a little light on that and discover ways that we can come together in those kind of spaces, which is absolutely crucial for us. All right, we'll step aside for a quick commercial break. We'll come back. More Inside Sources coming up next. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Introducing Yes, Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric. We're bringing all of Utah's favorite HVAC, plumbing, and electrical brands under one roof. Maximize your energy savings with a new energy-efficient heating and cooling system from Yes, and you could save up to $4,500 through possible tax credits and other discounts. Purchase a new system today, and Yes will buy back your old inefficient HVAC system. Visit theyesmancan.com to schedule your appointment. Call now or visit theyesmancan.com for details, terms, and conditions.
Experience the fast, action, fun, and thrilling competition of ISU World Cup Speed Skating at the Utah Olympic Oval, January 26 through 28. Cheer on Team USA's Olympians, including Beijing 2022 gold medalist Aaron Jackson, as they race against the world's top speed skating athletes from China, Canada, the Netherlands, Japan, and more on the fastest ice on earth. Tickets for ISU World Cup Speed Skating are available now at UtahOlympicLegacy.org.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online? Go to hims.com/joy. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, and the process is 100% online. To start your free online visit, go to hims.com/joy. That's HIMS.com/JOY.
Jackson Hewitt has a plan to get your tax refund fast with a buck here, buck there. Here a buck, there a buck, everywhere a buck.
You don't have to wait weeks for your tax refund. Get money sooner with a no-fee refund advance loan at Jackson Hewitt.
On this loan, there's a money today guarantee. E-I-E-I-DO.
Don't settle for chicken feed. Get fast bucks at Jackson Hewitt today. No-fee refund advance loans by Republic Bank offered to eligible clients. Money today guarantee if approved for a loan on a prepaid card. Details at jacksonhewitt.com.
Healthcare with human kindness is here. It's at Common Spirit Health. Hospitals, clinics, and caregivers all connected to advance healthcare in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Together, we have a common purpose, partnering with you in health and healing using powerful medicine, powerful technology, and the greatest power of all, human kindness. You'll know it when you see it, because human kindness is in every care site and in every caregiver. Common Spirit Health. Hello, human kindness.
Believe it or not, most small businesses don't have a 401k. If you don't have a 401k, you are missing out on the greatest wealth creation tool ever created. I'm Jeff Jr. with Trajan Wealth, and many 401ks are overpriced for the employer, have expensive and underperforming investment options, and have tedious administrative provisions. Not at Trajan Wealth. We can set up a 401k for a company for only $9 per employee, a $29 per plan fee, plus a small advisory fee, not thousands or even the tens of thousands you've been quoted, and do it all in less time than it takes to sit in traffic. 401ks will help you attract and retain top talent, and we can do it all for a couple $100. If you're an employee and don't have a 401k, tell your boss, call Trajan Wealth today. Call 801-899-7600. That's 801-899-7600.
Services offered through a third-party partner.
Hey folks, it's Doug and Kathy with Window World.
Doug, can you believe it's been 20 years?
What's been 20 years?
Well, since we opened our first Window World store.
That is amazing. Our motto today is the same. Quality products, professionally installed, backed up by our awesome warranty.
And our team shares those very same values.
Come see us today. We have stores in Murray and Spanish Fork for your convenience.
Experience the Window World difference. Call 801-281-8111 or visit windowworldutah.com.
And we promise no baloney.
Visit the contest page on KSLNewsRadio.com. This week, don't miss your chance at New Year's Cash for being a KSL Text subscriber, or win tickets to Ballet West's Swan Lake, featuring the timeless music of Tchaikovsky. Don't miss Swan Lake February 9th through the 17th. Plus, win tickets to the Utah Boat and Water Sports Expo, February 1st through the 4th at the Mountain America Expo Center. Text the word contest to 57500 or go to KSLNewsRadio.com/contests.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, two of the most controversial bills of this legislative session passed through both the House and the Senate today. Second, Utah lawmakers all over the country have to deal with threats just for doing their jobs. And third, there could be another deal in the works to free more of the Israeli hostages held by Hamas in Gaza. Right now, 43 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Boyd Matheson divides rage from reason on Inside Sources.
Well, as we continue to watch Utah succeeding on a wide range of fronts, from best state to work, best place to start a business, economics are thriving. There's a host of other things that are going on, but the question is, are there some things that are part of that unique sauce that is Utah, and are some of those unique qualities in danger? And really pleased to have joining us on the program today, Robert Lerman, professor at American University, senior fellow at the Urban Institute, talking about some of the data that he's been following, some of the things we've been looking at in terms of marriage, what that does to the economy, two-parent households, and again, what that overall means in terms of the economics of it all. And Professor, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
So give us kind of the high level in terms of the economics of marriage and two-parent families.
Yeah, well, it won't surprise most people that two-parent families do a lot better than single-parent families. After all, there are two potential breadwinners, or breadwinner plus a caretaker. But the numbers are really quite substantial. The income differences are double. That is, two-parent families earn twice as much as the single-parent households. Gap in poverty rates is extraordinary. The unmarried heads of families with children have a poverty rate 4 times the poverty rate of two-parent families with children. So the differences are astounding, and unfortunately, over the years, the share of married couple families has fallen, and along with the share of married people has fallen. And the other element is that there are a lot of factors that are generational as well, so that kids growing up in two-parent families do better in school, do better in the workforce, and that then helps economies of regions and states and cities.
Yeah. Give us a little sense in your study, in your research, Professor, in terms of maybe some of those under the headline things. I think we can say, okay, that's interesting in terms of the two-parent families. That makes sense. We've obviously seen those marriage rates and two-parent families declining. And so what does that mean as we watch those numbers, and what do we expect to see in the years ahead?
Well, I'm afraid that we don't make the effort to educate young people about what makes for a quality relationship, why marriage is a good bet in the long run, especially how to have a healthy marriage. I mean, two of the most important things in someone's life are not taught. One is financial education, and the other is how to have a healthy couple relationship. And it's funny because critics who say, well, this isn't the government role, those same critics are very happy to have a very elaborate sex education classes in the high schools. So I think we don't give it the kind of attention that it deserves. And not that it would solve all our problems, because it's a cultural pattern that has taken place over time. Would take a lot to turn it around.
Yeah, no question. Great insight to Robert Lerman, professor of economics at American University, senior fellow at the Urban Institute, author of several books. Professor Lerman, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Bye.
Really interesting to look at all of these. And, of course, we do know that even here in the state of Utah, those numbers continue to go down. Always interesting. I thought it was interesting how Professor Lerman talked about things that we do like to legislate and teach in schools and things that we don't. And really interesting. I do think it's crucial that we have different kinds of conversations. We know it's been interesting up at the state legislature here in the state of Utah, conversations around the success sequence. Meaning finishing your formal education, getting a good job, then getting married, then having children, that is a success sequence that the data shows is a really good path to stay out of poverty. And that success sequence, I think if you went into any high school and asked the children, the students there, do you want a guarantee to not be in poverty over the course of your lifetime? And of course they would want to learn that, but often we can't teach that in school because that either feels like a faith discussion or a religious discussion or government forcing morality or choices or standards of some sort. And yet the data is the data, and the data doesn't lie in terms of what the net results are if you follow that particular set of sequences in terms of education, employment, then relationship and marriage, then children. That sequence, the data shows, matters, and it gives you a really, really, really good chance of staying out of poverty over the course of your lifetime. So that's an important part of that sequence. We're actually going to have next week joining us on the program, we're actually going to have Brad Wilcox from the University of Virginia join us. He's actually got a new book coming out just before Valentine's Day, ironically, titled Get Married: Why Americans Must Defy the Elites, Forge Strong Families, and Save Civilization. And, of course, we've had Brad Wilcox on this program before, and he's done great research and what the real recipe for happiness is and should be, that it is about this process of making what David Brooks often refers to as thick relationships. So much of what we do in the world today is transactional, very thin relationships, if any at all. Some are just purely transactional. Our politics has clearly become transactional. Many of our employment situations, our interaction with bosses or with management is very transactional, as opposed to what it used to be in terms of deep, thick relationships in community. And I'm going to talk about this coming up at the end of the show today, coming up at 2:50. It was part of an amazing, thick conversation last night in Mill Creek. We had about 180 people who showed up on a perfectly good Thursday evening to talk about how do we have better conversations in our community about everything, not just politics, but things that are important in the community, and why those kinds of thick relationships really matter, and that we've got to reprioritize them in our digital and very thin, very transactional world. All right, that wraps it up for hour number one of Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. We're going to step aside for some top-of-the-hour news, but don't go anywhere. We'll come right back with some more Inside Sources. Stick around. We'll be right back.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 2 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour. The Utah House and Senate have passed two of the most controversial bills of the legislative session today. One would eliminate diversity, equity, and inclusion programs at Utah's public colleges, and the so-called bathroom bill also passed both houses after a conference committee worked out changes to overcome objections in the House. Equality Utah reacted to the bill's passage by saying they're pleased that school children will not face penalties now for using a bathroom that doesn't match their birth certificates, but they said they're unhappy with the fear and distress the debate over the bill has caused for transgender individuals. A small plane crashed into the ice at Pineview Reservoir this afternoon. 2 people aboard the plane were able to get out, and they were treated for exposure to the cold water. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The Biden administration says it's still optimistic that Senate negotiators can work out an agreement on border security that also provides funds for the ongoing wars in Ukraine and Israel. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre at a briefing today responded to reports that former President Donald Trump is telling congressional Republicans to scuttle any deal in Congress.
House Republicans, they have a choice to make, right? They have to choose whether they want to solve a problem, actually solve a problem like the Senate is trying to do in a bipartisan way, or get in the way and score political points.
Taking a look at your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average is up on the day, 60 points. The NASDAQ has been down right now, 55 points. And our KSL weather, looks like things are going to clear up and the clouds will go away. That's next. KSL News Time 2:02.
We hope you have the right app on your phone for news. You probably have dozens.
But the KSL News Radio app, well, it makes our live stream super easy.
Plus, our talk shows are right there as podcast for your workday.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
Alpine Home Medical, we bring wellness home.
Do you ever feel like getting your supplies for your CPAP is just a huge headache? Hi, I'm Jay Broadbent with Alpine Home Medical. We'll say goodbye to the hassle and hello to a stress-free life with our CPAP resupply service. Signing up is a breeze. Just place a call, choose your products, and leave the insurance billing and shipping to us. Our discreet packaging prioritizes your privacy, and we always ensure an on-time delivery. No more trips to the store or worrying about running out of important supplies. We get how crucial your CPAP therapy is, so don't let the stress of keeping up with it affect your sleep and health. Join Alpine Resupply today and enjoy a tranquil night's sleep with all your CPAP essentials. Visit us at alpinehomemedical.com.
Alpine Home Medical, we bring wellness home.
That's alpinehomemedical.com.
At Fisher Investments, we do things differently, and other money managers don't understand why.
Because our way works great for us.
But it may not work for your clients. That's why Fisher Investments is a fiduciary, obligated to put clients first. It's the highest standard for a financial advisor.
So, what do you provide? Cookie-cutter portfolios like the rest of us?
No cookie-cutter portfolios here. Fisher Investments tailors portfolios to meet each client's goals and needs.
But you do sell investments that earn you high commissions, right? And make commissions when you make trades for your clients?
No, Fisher Investments doesn't sell any commission investment products, and we never earn commissions on trades.
So what's in it for you?
Fisher Investments fees are structured so we do better when our clients do better. When it comes to helping clients achieve a comfortable retirement, we're clearly different. Visit FisherInvestments.com to find out why investors like you switch to us. Fisher Investments, clearly different money management.
Investments in securities involve the risk of loss.
They say it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert. You may not have that kind of time for weatherization, energy efficiency, and appliance rebates, but we do. Dominion Energy's ThermWise program has experts who know where and how to save money. They help homeowners and businesses find simple ways to conserve natural gas and rebates through upgrades that may help to save even more. We put our energy into helping you conserve it, so you can spend your 10,000 hours becoming an expert in what matters to you. Start with a home energy plan at thermwise.com.
Do you enjoy fishing, hunting, or just soaking in the beautiful outdoors? Then check out the KSL Outdoors Show, airing Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. and midnight on KSL 5 TV. Outdoors with Adam Eagle is a unique show that takes viewers on a journey through Utah's beautiful backcountry. Watch it live every weekend or find the KSL Outdoors Show on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. It's the KSL Outdoors Show, brought to you by Camp Chef.
Getting help with electrical repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Meese.
If you're in Parley's Canyon, be aware we have UHP holding back traffic and also doing a traffic slowdown. And it's both directions of I-80, anywhere between Mountaindale and Parley Summit. We've had animals in traffic. And when they get that close to the freeway, officers do try to hold back traffic in order to get them removed over to the side and back into the wilderness safely. There are some pedestrians in place along the sides of I-80 as well. So definitely use caution and expect backups in both directions. Again, that's between Mountaindale and Parley Summit. Transform your outdated kitchen with half-priced granite quartz with half-priced granite. Granite quartz, marble, and quartzite starting at $25 per square foot installed. Visit halfpricedgranite.com. Affordable luxury. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, mostly sunny and dry starting this weekend going into next week. Though an inversion is going to be trapping pollution in the valleys of the Wasatch Front. We'll see highs rising into the upper 40s. And right now, we're at 43 degrees with partly cloudy skies. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Well, it is a Friday, and we're going to go to the Equal Opportunity Offender Department as we roll through hour number 2 of Inside Sources. And those that we're going to offend are the current and former occupants of the White House. We see lots of headlines of the former president meddling, imposing his will on a potential compromise deal on border security, sinking hopes of getting that done in the Senate and the House. And the current occupant of the White House continuing to skirt Congress and spending hundreds of billions of dollars on student loan forgiveness. The question beyond the headlines is, are we more interested in scoring political points or solving problems? Let's begin.
Think you know the news of the day? Think again with Boyd Matheson on KSL News Radio.
Sadly, in so many places and spaces, we seem to be far more interested in scoring political points than we do actually solving the problems of the American people. And we've seen that unfold specifically just over the course of the last few days. Let's start on the Republican side. Things have been moving forward on a potential compromise bill that would include some funding for the border security, along with aid to Ukraine and Israel, amongst other things. Really interesting, the former president has been weighing in heavily on a potential border deal, and in the process, really submarining any chances it has of being passed, a.k.a. solving the problem. Today, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer spoke on the floor saying that they were continuing with Senator Langford, Republican from Oklahoma, and Senator Murphy, Democrat, and many others that are negotiating this, that they will continue to talk and work through the weekend to see if they can't get a deal, especially as it relates to border security.
Now, as we've seen over the past day, getting a bipartisan agreement on the supplemental is very difficult. But I am glad that now negotiations are continuing to move forward. Of course, there are still issues that must be settled, but negotiators will work all weekend in an effort to get this done.
Now, there has been a lot of work done. There are challenges, to be sure. There is no bill text yet, so nobody can totally weigh in on whether it's a good bill or a bad bill because nobody's seen the bill. Separate issue. We'll come back to that later. But the problem is many are taking shots at the potential compromise before there even is a compromise. And foremost among those are former President Donald Trump. On social media company Truth Social, Donald Trump released a video declaring that the only way to stop the border crisis is to elect him as president.
The only way this country regains its sovereignty and restores our border is if you get out and vote for a gentleman known as President Donald J. Trump. That's me. I promise you this, I will have the border sealed on day one. The establishment career politicians in this race will never secure the border. They don't have what it takes. They don't want to do it. They don't probably even believe they should do it.
So that was the former president on Truth Social. And in essence, what he was saying was, don't solve that problem now, or don't get a compromise solution now, because I want that as a campaign issue in the fall of 2024. He believes that's a good issue for his campaign, and so he would rather have the issue than see the problem solved. Utah Senator Mitt Romney gave his reaction to the former president exerting his influence on the talks in the halls of Congress, saying that if he's delaying them for a campaign issue, that's a problem.
I think the border is a very important issue for Donald Trump, and the fact that he would communicate to Republican senators and congresspeople that he doesn't want us to solve the border problem because he wants to blame Biden for it is really appalling.
And so as you watch that play out in the coming days, again, is it more important to have a political point that you can play in the fall of a big election year or solving the problem? I think the job is problem solving. That's what we elect these folks to do. On the Democratic side, President Biden has continued to go down this path on student loan forgiveness. Of course, he did sweeping things by executive order, only to be told by the Supreme Court, you can't do that. But it was a campaign promise by President Biden. And for a president that is really struggling with young voters right now, that his favorabilities amongst young voters is falling, a constituency that he won big and was very important to his election in 2020 and will be crucial for him in this 2024 re-election campaign. He has chosen to go through the agencies to do the same things, and in some cases would actually spend more money than his sweeping loan forgiveness that he was doing all by himself with the stroke of an executive pen. Again, is it more important to score the political point or to do the right process and to get to the right policy that produces the right result for the American people? And that's where we all have to think again, because as we listen to these issues come up, and there'll be more and more of them the further we go into 2024, that are going to be, well, let's not actually solve that, because if we solve that, what are we going to run on when it comes fall and we're trying to win on that first Tuesday in November? And that is part of the reverse incentives, the negative incentives that we have put on so many elected officials. It's not in their best interest to get it solved right now because it's better for them to use it as a cudgel or as a fiery talking point that they can sling at their opponents, or something that will show up in your email box as a fundraising message to get you to donate. Because after all, you can see them now. I can see them on my computer from both the left and the right. And they show donate now, $25, because we've got to secure the border. And the only way to secure the border is for the former president to win election and become the president in 2025. And on the flip side, Democrats are touting what they have to get done in terms of education and President Biden's sweeping moves to help hardworking students. And so, again, it all comes down to, are we scoring political points or are we getting to policy discussions that solve real problems? And here's the part we have to deal with as voters. If we continue to reward bad behavior, we will get more bad behavior. That is the rule of absolute predictability of consequences. You reward bad behavior, you get more bad behavior. And currently, we continue to reward bad behavior when it comes to our elected officials. We allow them to turn important discussions in our country, whether it's about immigration, the border, health care, whatever it might be, infrastructure. We've turned them all into political talking points. And when we do that, trust me, the political consulting class and the political industrial complex in Washington, D.C. says, aha, we've got an issue. We've got an issue the American people don't actually agree on in terms of solution. We've got a talking point for our campaign, and we got a way to raise campaign cash. That's good for them. So we have to be careful. We have to think again about what we're rewarding and what we're allowing to have happen. And every time we see that, and it doesn't matter whether it's the Republicans or the Democrats, when they're weaponizing issues, important issues to the country, and not solving them because it's in their political and power interest to not solve them so they can win an election off that as a wedge issue, we got to think again about that. All right, we'll step aside for a quick break, but that is an area that I think we have to keep coming back to. What are we rewarding? Political points and posturing, or are we solving problems with good policy? That's where we got to get as a country.
Think again on Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson. It's playoff season and just weeks until spring baseball. But this week, Utah is all about hockey.
Jazz owner Ryan Smith is asking the NHL to bring an expansion hockey team to Utah.
It will be really, really good. I'm not opposed to it. I think that would actually be perfect.
Utes, Cougars, Salt Lake Bees, and RSL fans. They all get their news about pro sports franchises landing in Salt Lake from Utah's news station, KSL News Radio.
It's the dead of winter, and our friends at Advanced Window Products have a wonderful wintertime offer. This is Jeff Kaplan. If the cold is seeping into your house right now, Nate and Jake will give you $2,500 off on double-pane windows and the highest quality custom frames built right here in Utah. Any style, any color, and the $2,500 is atop their already low prices. See, they build the windows, they install the windows, and they guarantee them for life. So there's no middleman markup. At Advanced Window Products, they offer 0% financing. You can save now, pay later, so take advantage in the dead of winter while the wind is whistling and give your home, your number one asset, a fresh new look. Plus, you save money on heating and air conditioning so much so the energy companies offer rebates. Buy local. Their factories right here in Salt Lake City. Save an extra $2,500 off the best windows and frames in Utah. 801-850-9100. 801-850-9100 or visit advancedwindowsusa.com.
IVC, Interventional Vascular and Vein Center, is having a New Year, New Leg special event on Saturday, January 27th. This will be a free screening for varicose veins at their office in Provo. Don't let leg pain slow you down in 2024. Why wait? Now is the time to kick off the new year with new legs. Come and learn why starting at the beginning of the year is ideal to get you ready for spring. IVC has been in business for over 20 years and has been voted the best vein center of Utah Valley for 10 years running. IVC's doctors, advanced practice providers, and sonographers will be on hand to answer your questions. So come see them Saturday, January 27th for a free varicose vein screening. Space is limited, so please RSVP right now. Visit ivein.com. That's the letter I, VEIN.com to schedule your New Year, New Legs free screening at IVC. Because life starts when the pain stops.
I'm Scott, the owner of Solid Fire Pits. When I began welding my custom-made fire pits for friends and family, I shared them on TikTok because I was just so proud of them. Check it out. That's beautiful. I posted every new fire pit design and more people kept ordering, from 26 states and counting. Then on my birthday, I had my best sales ever. Now how can the universe beat that?
Solid Fire Pits is just one of the 5 million U.S. businesses that rely on TikTok every day. TikTok sparks business.
Pizza's here.
Oh, great. I'd love some, but I'm worried about my stomach issues.
If you're worried about having diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose, oily stools, it may not just be stomach issues. It could be a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and talk to your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
Made to Shine. Love stories from Shane Company customers.
My wife's been working long weekends, so instead of just taking her out to dinner on Valentine's Day, I'm going to surprise her with a gift from Shane Company. I stopped by, and they showed me some really beautiful diamond heart necklaces. Right away, I knew that'd be something she'd love. I hope it reminds her how much I love her every day.
Our diamonds are hand-matched for consistency and sparkle, so your love will shine forever. Shane Company. Fine jewelry since 1929.
It's the Boat Show, February 1st through the 4th at Mountain America Expo.
Save $2 at UtahBoatShow.com.
The Boat Show, fun for the whole family.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bonas. First, the two most controversial bills of the legislative session passed both the House and the Senate today. Took some compromise for the so-called bathroom bill. Second, a small plane crashed into the ice near the dam at Pineview Reservoir this afternoon. 2 people aboard managed to get out okay. And third, the White House says it's still optimistic about reaching a deal with Congress on border security funding, as well as aid for Ukraine and Israel. Right now, 43 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Get deeper insights on the news from Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. It's great to be with you today, as always. And every once in a while, we have to, get some lessons on the importance of freedom and rights from our neighbors to the north. And actually, you may recall back during the pandemic, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau used emergency powers against a group called the Freedom Convoy after they protested some of those continued COVID-19 regulations, landed them in court on a host of things. And it's one of those that just got resolved in the courts up in Canada. And I just want to go back to it and break it down because I think there's some important reminders and lessons in there for all of us here in the United States as well. And to help us do that, J.D. Tuchili, of course, contributing editor at Reason, Reason.com, and a great piece at Reason.com talking about that crackdown on freedom. And J.D., welcome back to the show. And just for our listeners, just reset the table in terms of where this all began.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we all know how controversial lockdowns and other public health restrictions were in the United States during the early days of COVID. School closures, businesses were closed, mask mandates, social distancing, and then later on vaccine mandates. But the thing is, I think a lot of Americans don't realize is that we had it relatively light compared to other countries. Restrictions in Canada, for instance, were tighter. More restrictive, and they sparked also protests there as they do here, except Canadians aren't really used to. Canada doesn't have a huge history of large mass public protests. So when truckers initiated the Freedom Convoy to protest vaccine mandates and border restrictions and other lockdown measures, and they drove trucks and led protesters to Ottawa, the capital of Canada, it became a big deal in Canada, much more so than we would expect, say, if you saw yet another protest in Washington, D.C. And the Prime Minister then, who is still the Prime Minister now, Justin Trudeau, invoked a law that had never been used before. It's the Emergency Act, and it gives the government special powers basically to bypass protections for civil liberties, bypass normal procedures, due process, in order to deal with crises. He declared the protest in Ottawa to be a crisis after about, I think it was 2 weeks of the protesters being there. And he invoked the act, immediately started freezing hundreds of bank accounts without any due process or appeal of those participating in the protest, and also used the power to order towing companies to tow the trucks that have been parked in the streets of Ottawa, because a lot of the towing companies have been reluctant to help the government on that matter. So it was a big deal for them to do that. There's still repercussions today, and among those repercussions were a lawsuit that was launched against the use of the Emergency Act back then, 2 years ago. And there was a federal court decision in Canada this week on that said that the use of the Emergencies Act was not justified. There was no emergency, and the rights of Canadians were violated by its use.
Yeah, and I think that's so interesting. So many politicians of all persuasions love to use that term emergency. And usually when we hear that, we should all have our spidey sense go up, that usually the emergency usually means your freedom is about to be limited, restricted, or removed entirely because somebody's in a hurry and wants to get something done. So give us a little bit more in terms of the essence there in Canada. How is the result of this playing out? Again, it's kind of down the road. People are like, oh, yeah, I remember that all happened. But when you go back and reread it, the freezing of those bank accounts, some of the challenges, the sweeping action that was taken by the Trudeau government was really pretty stunning. How's that playing north of the border?
Well, it's still contentious now, although the popularity of the Prime Minister and his government has plummeted since that time. He was already on the rocks back then, but he's now sitting at 32% approval, which is no place that any politician wants to be and doesn't bode well for his next re-election attempt. As it is, he's sitting in a minority government. Canada's a parliamentary system. His party, the Liberal Party, has a minority in the parliament, but it holds on to power with the support of a third party there, the New Democracy Party, which is a socialist party. So it looks like the Conservatives are poised to win the next election, although obviously there, as here, nothing is ever guaranteed. But a big part of his loss of popularity was the use, first of all, the restrictive and draconian public health mandates during the pandemic, and then the use of the Emergencies Act at the time of the protests in Ottawa, which was seen by a lot of people, obviously not everybody, there's still a matter of debate, was seen by a lot of people as being way over the top. I mean, at that time, the New York Times had editorialized that the protests in Ottawa were really very modest by world standards. I mean, we're used to big protests in Washington, D.C. We're used to turning on the news and saying that something's on fire in Paris because somebody was upset. I mean, that's the sort of thing that happens around the world rather frequently. It's not the case in Ottawa and in Canada overall. And so their officials either panicked or at least used what seemed unusual as an excuse to invoke extraordinary power. They bypassed due process. They scared a lot of people with the freezing of the bank accounts. Remember, there was no right of appeal. People just could not access money they had saved, could not use their credit cards, couldn't receive donations. There was a lot of talk about, okay, this is why we need Bitcoin and crypto, because it's a system that they can't freeze. I mean, there was a lot of talk about what happens when they do this again and again and again if they get away with it. The use of the Emergencies Act did require a government review of whether or not it was justified, and the government signed off on its own use of the Emergencies Act. A guy named Paul Willow came out and said, I'm sorry?
I said shocking that the government approved their own use of power.
I know. Whoever doubted their own propriety in making the decisions they made. But a guy named Paul Rouleau headed up the mandated review, and last summer he came out and said that although he was reluctant to conclude so, the government had met the high bar. This week, of course, a judge invoked their own constitution and said, no, he did not meet the high bar. There was no crisis. There was certainly public disorder, but that's what a protest is, and you don't get to bypass people's rights, freeze their accounts, take their property because they're engaged in dissent, protest in ways that is disruptive. That's just what protesters do. Now, this decision will be appealed. Actually, one of the surprises I'll mention, by the way, was that the judge found that the rights protected by the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms have been violated. That's sort of their equivalent to the United States Bill of Rights, but it is much squishier than the U.S. Bill of Rights. I mean, it starts off with a passage saying that everything in it is subject to the needs of a liberal democracy, which just opens a Mack truck-sized door for politicians to go right through it, and that's been history. Not many laws have been struck down under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and this time a judge said, actually, it did violate rights.
Yeah.
Which kind of indicates that it was a real violation of due process and of liberties that occurred this time.
Fascinating stuff. Great lessons from north of the border. We don't always go for those for our civil liberty lessons, but it is one, and I think you nailed it there, JD, that when the courts in Canada said you really overstepped your bounds. You really overstepped your bounds. Great insight, great writing. As always, JD Tuccille, contributing editor at Reason. Check out his piece at Reason.com. JD, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me on. You take care.
All right. JD Tuccille, always a great one, contributing editor at Reason. Check out his piece at Reason.com. Really important. You have those rights for a reason. The government can't just do it because they want to or because they use the term emergency. We'll step aside for bottom of the hour news. We'll be right back.
It's 2:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bonas. KSL's top local story this hour, a bill dealing with bathrooms and gender passed both the Senate and the House today at Utah's state capitol. It will require people to use the bathroom matching the gender on their birth certificates in publicly funded buildings. State Senator Dan McKay took questions after the vote.
A person should go to the bathroom of their birth sex, and if there's questions, they ought to find a non-gender specific bathroom.
LGBTQ advocates, though, have argued the bill will harm transgender individuals. This bill now goes to the governor's desk. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. One person escaped the collapse of a historic church building in New London, Connecticut this afternoon. Mayor Michael Passero says the church itself can't be saved.
Working with engineers who have determined, unfortunately, that the remainder of this structure will have to be demolished completely.
The first Congregational church in New London was built in 1810. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average closed trading today up 60 points, while the NASDAQ was down 55. The S&P 500 was down 3. And our KSL weather, look for skies to clear up this weekend. That's next. KSL News Time, 2:31.
It's a priority for us at this station to bring you all sides of a story and to talk about the news fairly, completely.
Get all the facts and be really aware. Utah's Morning News with us, Tim and Amanda.
Weekday mornings 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
You know, every once in a while, I just have to throw down a triple dog dare. And this is your triple dog dare moment. It is time, 2024. Make it your year to be healthier, happier, to feel better, to have energy, to do it, to take control. And your chance to do that with SOTA Weight Loss. SOTA stands for state-of-the-art weight loss because it is state-of-the-art and it works. No one will ever ask you, does it work? Because it does work. They'll see the results. The pounds and inches will go away. I lost 37 pounds in less than 90 days. I am 2 years into my triple dog dare, and now it's time for you to do the same. You can do it with their Shape Up Showdown, and you can actually win an entire year of the program along with a $2,000 wardrobe makeover, which you're going to need with the results that you're going to get. Just email shapeup@sotaweightloss.com, shapeup@sotaweightloss.com. And as I always say when it comes to your SOTA weight loss journey, triple dog dare, no time to lose, only time to win. Start winning today at sotaweightloss.com.
Derek Overstreet, founder of the New Millennium Group. We're a financial planning firm. Listen, we're fiduciaries. We have advisors standing by right now to take your call. That's 888-999-6370. 888-999-6370. The reason you're going to want to call is we're going to help you retire 3 to 5 years before you thought possible. Now, imagine how that would be if you could actually retire 3 to 5 years sooner than your plan was. The way we do this is by putting together a step-by-step plan, taking into consideration any rental properties that you have, any pension income that you have, your Social Security. Listen, we put that all together for you in writing. It will allow us to build your income based on inflation. You know, inflation has been rapidly rising. You and I both need a plan that whatever we start out our income at, in 5 or 10 years, we're going to need 40% more income. So if you're one of those people listening and you'd like a plan in writing, give us a call at 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370, or go to utahsfinancialplanner.com.
Traffic and weather together now, brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Meese.
We had an animal in traffic that affected both east and westbound I-80 between Mountaindale and Parley Summit. That has been cleared. All lanes of travel are open and the delays are gone. But we do have some busy traffic northbound I-15 as you're passing 3300 south. Mr. Max buy one, get one sale. Buy one suit for $299, get the second one for $100. Any style, any occasion, free alterations and 9 locations. Mr. Mac, Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, mostly sunny and dry weather, will start up this weekend and go into next week. An inversion, though, will be trapping pollution in the valleys of the Wasatch Front, and we'll see highs rising into the upper 40s. And right now, we're at 45 degrees, partly cloudy. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources.
Inside Sources.
America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Well, as we've been discussing throughout the day today, always interesting, especially in a very hot presidential election year, that so many on the political left and the political right are far more willing to have a political point rather than solve a real problem with good policy that produces results for the American people. Sometimes we'd just rather hold on to that because we can raise money off it. We can use it as a wedge issue to try to win a campaign. In the process, we miss the more important conversations. And we found a great one today in the Washington Post. Catherine Rampell, of course, is an opinion columnist at the Post. Always great to have her back on the show. And Catherine, in your piece today in the Post, you say the best kept secret in American politics is one of those things that has to do with energy. What's the secret, and why are they keeping it a secret?
The secret, I use that sort of facetiously, is that almost every kind of energy is booming, whether you're talking about crude oil, natural gas, solar, wind, biofuels. Almost every major source of energy has recently hit an all-time high in terms of production in the United States. And so that's what the piece is about, that people don't seem to know this, but there's a boom time happening right now.
So unpack that for us just a little bit, Catherine, because, again, it's so interesting to me that it doesn't matter what kind of energy, whether it's crude oil production, whether it's wind and solar, they all seem to be doing better, and yet both sides are kind of keeping it under wraps.
Yeah, I think what's going on here is that for Republicans, it is somewhat inconvenient, in particular, to acknowledge or highlight the fact that crude oil production in the United States is at a record high. In fact, not just a record high for us, we are pumping more oil than any country on earth ever has in recorded history. And it's somewhat inconvenient because part of Republican politicians' line of attack against President Biden and the Democrats is that they have sort of turned off the oil spigot, right? That there's been this war on fossil fuels, et cetera, and when in fact we are actually pumping more oil than ever. And then on the left, among Democrats, I think it is somewhat dicey to highlight those same numbers because it might aggravate the more climate-minded base, right? That there are a lot of Democrats, among others, who would like to keep it in the ground, as the saying goes, that they don't want to be pumping more oil or extracting more natural gas because those things have produce carbon emissions, and it's not such a good thing to be having more and more of that produced and exported as well. So, on fossil fuels, I think it's pretty obvious, like, what the downsides are for talking about these issues. On the other sources of energy, renewables, that's complicated, I think, for somewhat different reasons. Yeah. So renewable production, again, has been booming. There have been tons and tons of new developments that are either in process or are coming online soon, solar, wind farms, battery storage. So not just production, but, storage options to make wind and solar power work more reliably, less intermittently in any event. And a lot of that development has happened in red states for various reasons. Like Texas, for example, makes it very easy to build. And so Texas has been far and away the leader in renewable development in the past few years. But in Texas, the politics of renewables are complicated, right? Because it's an oil state. And so you have, historically anyway, it still is an oil state, but and renewables are sort of coded as lefty, tree hugger. That's a thing that liberals like, even though there are a lot of conservatives, rock rib conservatives who are making money off of this. So I think that there are a lot of Republican politicians who are, not super excited to be talking about that. And even for Democrats who have generally been more eager to brag about the expansion of renewables, it can be complicated, at least in certain parts of the country, right? Like if you are in the upper Midwest, if you're in the so-called Rust Belt, maybe you're not excited to hear about lots of battery plants and EV plants that are cropping up in the South, in right-to-work states. Maybe you're worried about jobs being siphoned off. They're not only happening in right-to-work states, but a lot of them are.
Yeah.
So there's that. You have places like West Virginia as well, where West Virginia has been the site of a lot of new jobs for battery production and EVs. But there's resentment about renewables potentially taking the place of coal. So it's complicated.
Complicated is the word for it. We may have to coin the new term, the inconvenient success, because a lot of the politics of it, it'd be nice to just tout the success and say, hey, this is a good thing. But everyone is calculating that depending on their location and what it does for them politically. You mentioned the fact that Texas is doing so well in a lot of these green energy spaces, but they've got to be careful as a politician there because they can't be seen as you said, tree hugging or too far left.
Right.
Is there a space for a different kind of conversation in terms of all the energy? Again, I think President Biden has been hesitant to say across the board, but he is governing and is having success across the board. We have John Curtis here in the state of Utah, who's been part of a conservative caucus around climate and having a different kind of conversation about all of that. Does there seem to be enough political space for whether it's a member of Congress or someone running for president to actually have an honest conversation, say, hey, this success is really good, we should celebrate it?
I would hope so. I think there is a lot to celebrate here. As someone who is worried about climate change, I do have mixed feelings, of course, about the expansion of fossil fuels. But I think in the long run, you will see renewables, just on the economic merits, more or less overtake a lot of fossil fuels. But, I think it's a good thing for now that we are producing a lot, that we have energy in abundance, that we are maintaining lots and lots of jobs. And it would be nice if these kinds of issues were not coded in culture war terms, but in economic terms, right? Like, why do people have this sort of gut cultural reaction to wind turbines or oil or anything else, rather than thinking through the pros and cons of what it means for the planet, what it means for job creation, and what it means for human health and safety. So I think that I would much rather see the conversation shift into those terms and away from how it has been coded, these sort of culture war political terms. But I think it's unlikely for that to happen. I think the best shot would be for Biden to get a little bit less squeamish about highlighting, the sort of the both and energy policy, as opposed to letting it be framed as either or. You can either have renewables or fossil fuels, which I think is kind of how Americans understand it, in part because that's how Republican politicians have largely framed the issue. But at least for the near term, that's not the case. We have an abundance of all of the above.
Yeah, so important to get to the and conversation, not the fake fight and the false choice, because we can get to that path, as you said, Catherine, that we can do the right thing for the climate and the environment and for jobs and the economy and the American people. And health, and all of those things. We can have an and conversation, and love the way you frame this. Fantastic piece in the Washington Post. Catherine Rampell, always great thinking, always extraordinary writing. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, that's Catherine Rampell, opinion columnist at the Washington Post, and I just love the fact that nobody wants to talk about the successes we're having either in energy production, whether it's green energy or fossil fuel. We don't want to talk about it because we need it as a talking point for a political campaign. That's part of the problem, folks. We have to get to the and conversation. We got to do it different. We'll be right back.
Don't let this.
The fog has rolled in again, so long wait times
happen to you.
That right lane is blocked, and it is causing delays.
Fire's out, but they've got a few vehicles strung along the right side there as you make your way into the downtown area.
We do have a little bit of slowing still continuing on the south and west gates at Hill Air Force Base.
Dozens of traffic reporters and thousands of KSL listeners work together to get you to work and home on time. Listen every 10 minutes on the 9s, mornings and afternoons
on KSL News Radio.
It seems like everywhere you look right now, someone is sick. This year, prepare your family for airborne invaders like bacteria, pollen, and yes, germs with Navage Nasal Care. Navage flushes ultra-pure, refreshing saline in one nostril, around the back of the nose, and out of the other nostril. Navage sucks out viruses, dust, and other airborne particles, all the stuff that gets trapped in your nose, making you miserable. Don't get caught empty-handed this winter. Get Navage, the drug-free solution that helps you breathe easier, sleep better, and feel healthier. Even better, Navage is HSA, FSA eligible, so Navage is a great way to spend those funds before they expire. Don't wait a minute longer. Buy Navage today and you'll breathe easier knowing you're putting your funds to good use. Navage is available online at Navage.com or Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, and Rite Aid. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E. Clean nose, healthy life.
The Management Minute is a service of the MBA program in the John M. Huntsman School of Business at Utah State University. I'm Professor Scott Hammond. There are about 4,000 books a year published about leadership. 99% of them are written by self-proclaimed experts who see leadership as a fire that burns within. They assume that leadership is located in us, in the head and in the heart. Well, they're wrong. Leadership, like love, is a co-creation. It requires a relationship. It is found in the space between people. It is a series of behaviors, not traits of an individual. Leaders don't fly solo. They need a co-pilot and a crew. They need to collaborate. Learn more about leadership in an MBA from Utah State University. Go to utahstatemba.com. That's utahstatemba.com. I'm Scott Hammond. Hope to see you in one of our classes.
We have some breaking news in here to KSL News Radio. A federal jury has ordered former President Donald Trump to pay $83.3 million for defaming E. Jean Carroll. Of course, that was part of a sexual assault that was declared earlier, that the jury had found the president guilty of that. Now we're looking at this defamation case. Again, it's $83.3 million. That the former president will be expected to pay to E. Jean Carroll. We'll continue to watch that and watch for reaction coming up here on KSL News Radio. Stay with us.
If you've ever set New Year's resolutions before, you know how difficult it is to follow through because you have to wait to see the results. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and in honor of your New Year, New You resolutions, Any Hour Services is having our New Year, New System sale. From now until the end of February, Any Hour Services will give you $2,024 off a new furnace and air conditioner. And you don't have to wait to save the money. You get $2,024 off at the time of purchase. The only thing you have to do to qualify for our New Year, New System sale is call Any Hour Services and schedule a free estimate. When you call, there's no obligation to buy. Just schedule a time to meet that works best for you. Let me say that again. From now until the end of February, when you have Any Hour Services install a new furnace and air conditioner, we'll give you $2,024 off. Call Any Hour Services right now and schedule a free estimate. 801-443-7400. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
The monster is coming, and it wants you and your family.
And that's great news, really, because it's time for the Bear Lake Monster Winterfest, January 26th through the 28th. Winterfest is all about an incredible celebration of winter and all the fun it brings. So start Friday with Monster Winter Sports and Trails Day, a free event featuring fat tire bikes, snowshoes, snowmobiles, and tubes for the kids. Also a taste of Bear Lake, with local restaurants dishing up their tasty specialties. Then Saturday, it's the Monster 5K Walk and Run, a Monster Cisco Disco Tournament, chili cook-off, even a cardboard boat regatta, followed by the famous Monster Plunge. Come on, Bear Lake awaits. Visit BearLakeMonsterWinterfest.com for pre-registration times and locations. That's BearLakeMonsterWinterfest.com. Presented by Bear Lake Visitors Bureau and Bear Lake Chamber.
Do you enjoy fishing, hunting, or just soaking in the beautiful outdoors? Then check out the KSL Outdoor Show, airing Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. and midnight on KSL 5 TV. Outdoors with Adam Eagle is a unique show that takes viewers on a journey through Utah's beautiful backcountry. Watch it live every weekend or find the KSL Outdoor Show on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. It's the KSL Outdoor Show, brought to you by Camp Chef.
Introducing Yes, Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric. We're bringing all of Utah's favorite HVAC, plumbing, and electrical brands under one roof. Maximize your energy savings with a new energy-efficient heating and cooling system from Yes, and you could save up to $4,500 through possible tax credits and other discounts. Purchase a new system today, and Yes will buy back your old inefficient HVAC system. Visit theyesmancan.com to schedule your appointment. Call now or visit theyesmancan.com for details, terms, and conditions.
With interest rates coming back down, I bet the real estate market will pick back up in 2024. We're already seeing that, Tim.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really matter how the market is doing when you have the right team. So if you're looking to sell your house, now you want to downsize or you need more space, you need the Stern team.
The Stern team has taught us, I can think of a handful of things that I would worry about if I was buying or selling, but there are 100 details that are involved in selling a home, and they have lots of people that are handling every detail so nothing falls through the cracks.
And they have so many different options. I mean, I worked with Cammie there at the Stern team, and she was awesome. But if you need an instant cash offer, you can do that. If you need to buy before you sell, you can do that. They have flexible fees.
They also have people that they represent that are looking to buy a home, so maybe they can make that perfect connection within the Stern team.
So don't put off selling your house or buying a house because you think the market isn't just right. The market is right with the Stern team.
Go online to sternteam.com or just Google the Stern team.
IVC, Interventional Vascular and Vein Center, is having a New Year, New Leg special event on Saturday, January 27th. This will be a free screening for varicose veins at their office in Provo. Don't let leg pain slow you down in 2024. Why wait? Now is the time to kick off the new year with new legs. Come and learn why starting at the beginning of the year is ideal to get you ready for spring. IVC has been in business for over 20 years and has been voted the best vein center of Utah Valley for 10 years running. IVC's doctors, advanced practice providers, and sonographers will be on hand to answer your questions. So come see them Saturday, January 27th for a free varicose vein screening. Space is limited, so please RSVP right now. Visit ivein.com. That's the letter I, VEIN.com to schedule your New Year, New Legs free screening at IVC. Because life starts when the pain stops.
This Monday Tax Tip is brought to you by Susan Spears, CEO of the Utah Association of CPAs.
You can claim the child tax credit for each qualifying child with a valid Social Security number if the dependent is under 17 at the end of the year, earns less than 50% of their support, has lived with you for more than half the year, is a U.S. citizen, is properly claimed as a dependent on your tax return, are not filing a joint return with their spouse, or passes the relationship test. Talk to your CPA on that one. You may claim the child tax credit if you meet the eligibility factors and your income falls within threshold limits. Your CPA can help you determine if you are eligible for partial child tax credit.
Get the most out of your income tax preparation when you hire a CPA. Go to uacpa.org to find a CPA that's right for you. That's uacpa.org. Listen to KSL on Monday for more tax tips from the Utah Association of CPAs.
As the new year begins, you and your credit card might be ready for a quiet break.
Experience the relief of a low rate with the Mountain America credit card. With a 3% cash bonus on balance transfers, it's more relaxing than ever. Open a Mountain America credit card today for your limited time bonus. Details at macu.com/transfer. Loans and approved credit. Membership required based on eligibility. Offer can change or be withdrawn at any time. Terms, conditions, and restrictions apply.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. At 4 in the morning, my phone rang. They said, "I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action." Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full-time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/care.
So if you're just joining us, a federal jury has ordered former President Donald Trump to pay $83.3 million for defaming E. Jean Carroll. She is just walking out of the courthouse, and we're going to go to some live coverage there of her reaction to the verdict and the penalty from the judge. Again, former President Trump being ordered to pay $83.3 million in damages.
Roberta, can we have a few words, please?
We're currently just watching E. Jean Carroll is making her way to the car. We thought she would be making some comments. She is not. She is going straight into the car. Let's just take a listen in case she makes a comment here.
Carol, how do you feel? Why not 100 million?
How do you feel?
Why don't 100 million?
How do you feel, Miss Carroll?
Around 200 million.
Those are the sounds outside the New York City courthouse where E. Jean Carroll has just been awarded by the judge $83.3 million in the defamation case. We're continuing to stand by to see if the lawyers from either side will make specific comments, if the former president will have anything coming out either on social media or any official statements there as well. Again, the judge and the jury has ordered the Trump former president to pay E. Jean Carroll $83.3 million in compensatory and punitive damages in the defamation case. So we'll continue to follow all of that here on KSL News Radio. You can stick with Jeff Kaplan throughout the afternoon. I'm sure Jeff will have all the inside details there in terms of how that plays out and any reaction or response from the lawyers from both sides as well as the former president. We have just watched E. Jean Carroll get into a car and is leaving the courthouse there in New York City today. All right, as we round out the program today, as we've talked about throughout the course of the program and really throughout the course of the week, we have to get back to the real conversations about the real issues. We've spent a good chunk of time today talking about how politicians aren't talking about real issues. And in some cases, they're actually undermining progress on real good policy for purely political purposes. Former President